So I figured with Overwatch Stadium releasing in a couple of days, I think 2 or 3 more days away or something like that, I figured I'd quickly go down what my tier list is of the best characters, the worst characters in Stadium, and why they're good, why they're bad, and all that sort of stuff. And all that sort of thing. I think I played about 50 to 100 games over the course of, like, you know, the playtest I did at the Overwatch Spotlight, the private playtest that I got access to, and then obviously the public playtest that was able to be streamed, all that sort of stuff. I've been playing it a whole bunch. I've been, you know, making content. I'm so excited for it. Like, I legitimately am so excited for it. When I talk, like, I've been gassing up and glazing this mode like crazy. But it feels like one of Overwatch's best updates since the beginning of Overwatch. I mean, let's be real. It's a full-on new game, right? It's perfect for the community in the sense of, are you getting tired of core Overwatch? You go play Stadium. Are you getting tired of Stadium? You go play core Overwatch. It's kind of that something about Overwatch that I've been wanting for ages, where it's like, you know, I want to still be leveling up my stuff and all that sort of thing, but you know, I don't want to have to, like, play core Overwatch where, like, maybe it's way too sweaty or unfun. Anything like that. I'm glazing a little bit too hard. I'll save this for another video where I talk about Stadium, all that sort of stuff. But yeah. So we have a tier list here. All the heroes go up to Moira because there's only 17 heroes available. I think this is all the heroes. And I did this tier list on stream, but I kind of got distracted by Twitch chat. No flame to those guys. They were all absolutely great. But I did get distracted by Twitch chat a lot, and I feel like I didn't get my point across in the best way possible, where a lot of people wouldn't really understand. So first off, let's talk about Orisa, and where do I currently rank her? I rank Orisa, honestly, in, like, A tier. I think Orisa is annoying to play against. I think she's always just been an absolute pest, unfun, and core Overwatch. And in Stadium, she's kind of just, like, her whole thing is just staying alive constantly and just being, like, a storm machine, stupid disruptive. Never really dying, and cycling ability super well. I haven't really versed, like, many Orisas, but whenever I have, I just kind of found it really unfun and boring, right? Just because Fortify, and if she runs a super tanky build with a good pocket, she's pretty much unkillable. She doesn't really do a whole lot of crazy damage if she's, like, investing into tanky stuff, but she's more so just kind of like, we can't get rid of this character. It's very frustrating, very annoying, right? So, you know, I kind of just rank her there as, like, a really good stall character. And more so when she gets that ult off, and when she kind of, like, power scales, she becomes very frustrating to play into. Right. Going into Ana. Ana's also really good too. She has a lot of interesting powers. Some of them work really well if you're coordinated with a team super well. I kind of feel like she would be S tier if it wasn't a solo queue environment. But I'm going to kind of just rank her around in, like, A tier, right? Because, number one, I think one of her best perks is currently the, I think the team nano boost, where if anyone is in line of sight of you and you go to nano, you can pretty much nano everyone in your team. And that is so strong in team fights, can be a massive, like, change, because I think it's like a shorter duration of the nano, but I think it gives the same amount of health as, like, getting nanoed would. So it still gives you that most, like, insane advantage in a fight when someone's about to get low. You nano and all that sort of stuff. And as well, Ana players that spec mainly into nano stuff also do a whole lot of wonders as well, because there's also nano boost through walls. So if you're looking to nano boost your entire team, if one of your teammates is out of, like, line of sight because they're behind a wall, they're getting hit by the nano as well. Anti-nado is also just really good for dealing with a certain character, which we'll talk about later. And honestly, that's kind of why I rank her up here really well. Is obviously nano stuff is really good. Sleep dart is obviously a really great ability. Ana's just always just going to be, like, one of the best characters in the game, and it's not because she's, like, a broken character or anything like that. It's more so if she's in the right hands, she's broken, right? But yeah. Anyways, moving on to next tier or next character, Junkerqueen. So if you've been out of the loop of what's been happening in the pre-season 16, Junkerqueen is the server admin currently. She is pretty much the most broken character in the entire game right now. She is S tier, perfect. She is absolutely broken. This is pretty much Sojourn as a tank. She can do whatever she wants. She cannot die. It is impossible to kill it. If you do not have an Ana, that's it. If you don't build upgrades that stop her healing, that's another thing that's also a thing for it. From a Lucio player's perspective, there is a power on Junkerqueen, which I want to show you guys real quick, right? I want to show you guys in Spawn, which is an absolute nightmare to play against if you're a Lucio player. And honestly, it needs a nerf bad, right? If I go up to Junkerqueen here, she has one of her normal upgrades, which isn't a power, by the way. This is just a normal thing where, let me see if I can find it, sorry. Yeah, for 4,000 coins, she gets 50% knockback resistance, which, yeah, that's annoying, right? But when she gets knocked back, gain 25% increased move speed for 3 seconds. Now, if you're a Lucio player, if you're running any sort of character with a little bit of knockback, if you try to punish her for her bad positioning, she will just run into your team, and destroy you. And the thing is why Junkerqueen is so strong in Stadium is because ability power affects her, Commanding Shout, Carnage, Rampage. It affects pretty much a good chunk of her kit. You combat it in with, ability Lifesteal as well, and a little bit of tankiness, then she becomes super unkillable. And obviously, there's another perk as well here, another power, sorry. I'm going to call them perks, powers, whatever. They're the same thing, right? Where eliminations reset the cooldown of Commanding Shout. Now, I don't know about you guys, but every time Queen gets a shout in, she's going to have a couple of ability power or something like that, and she's going to get, 300 health if she just has only just a little bit of ability power, right? It's horrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. Combat that in with a little bit of survivability and a little bit of lifesteal. She hits her axe on the enemy team. She is not going to die at all. That character is going to be an absolute nightmare to kill. I honestly wonder if they're going to do like a pre-patch before they launch Stadium, because Junkerqueen's one of those characters that needs to be tuned down heavily. Ashe, for example, I honestly don't really know. I've been playing with Warren a decent amount, and it's kind of like, there is one build on Ashe that's very, like, gimmicky and troll build, like running around and doing a Bob-focused build, honestly, is kind of not as good I've seen so far. And honestly, I don't really think she's terrible. I think she's honestly kind of just average, right? Not too bad, not too good. She kind of just sits here in, like, B tier, right? I haven't played against many Ashes, but I think a couple of Ashe players kind of just do very hybridish build where they go into the attack damage ability power, and the ability power affects her dynamites, right? And then they get the powered, which also spawns an extra 3 dynamites after you explode 1. And in like small maps, it's really good, but more open areas, it doesn't get a crazy amount of value. So I honestly will say, like, I feel like if you get bad maps as Ashe, she kind of struggles a little bit. And I kind of feel like if you spec into the more Bob-focused build, it's not as good. So yeah, she's not, like I said, not too bad, not too good. She's kind of like pretty decent. She's not like the worst, right? Genji. Oh, I don't know how I feel about Genji, right? I've seen some really good Genjis on the Stadium ladder so far, and they've been really impressive, right? And it's more so, I don't really know what a lot of Genji's abilities do so far. Which is quite unfortunate. I haven't really been able to pick him up yet, but I have known that I have seen where some Genjis spec into more of like an ability power build, which affects his dash and his blade, which seems a little bit small, but if you combat that in with like a little bit of attack speed, he's going to be swinging faster in blade. His dash can apply bleed with one of his powers, and combo all that sort of thing with like as well. There's another power where if you use deflect for a second, you get to use dragon blade, so that's like a big burst of damage if you're up close to someone. Like you run up to someone, deflect, you get to block all their damage for a couple of seconds. And then, you just slash them with a blade right after, dash him, there goes the bleed, all that sort of stuff. So honestly, I don't really know. I don't really know where I place Genji. I kind of think I said maybe A tier, and honestly, I might honestly just say he's kind of A tier for now and see where he goes. I might come back to this later and see how it goes, right? But honestly, I think Genji's pretty good at the moment. Juno. Yeah, she's another broken character. Absolutely busted S tier, amazing. I've been playing with Aspen a lot, and if Aspen's on Juno, she pretty much rolls lobbies 24/7. If the enemy team doesn't have a Juno, they will struggle like absolute crazy, right? And the whole thing goes around, it's not even like Juno has strong heals or her ultimate is crazy strong or anything like that. Most Juno players I've seen just spec into ability power, right? They don't really go for much survivability. They just go for hardcore ability power. Pulse Torpedoes gains an additional charge. That means you get to fire your auto aim ability twice. Like you have things like critical hit with your Medi Blaster. It's not really that interesting because, you can do things like more torpedoes, more like mobility. Pulse Torpedoes cooldown is reduced by 1 second for each target hit. In most cases, if a Juno hits everyone in the team fight, she can have 3 like torpedoes up in a matter of like 5 to 6 seconds. That's how insanely crazy it is. And, combat that in with torpedoes heal for an extra 30 life and cause allies to hit to receive 50% more healing for 3 seconds, right? You hit your teammates with that. You hit the enemies with that. You have an incredibly insane sustain just from Juno alone, where she doesn't even really need to fire her gun at all. That's how disgusting this character is. No. Don't disagree with me. Okay. But yeah, so at the moment, Juno is honestly really strong. And it really just comes down because Torpedo is just so good. And since it's an auto-aim ability, anyone can kind of pick up the character and like get a lot of value out of it. I would say that like Junkerqueen, obviously, you acquire a little bit more skill with the character, a little bit more aim and all that sort of stuff. But I still find Junkerqueen to be way more broken than Juno, for example. Water break! Gosh, I love water. And now we talk about Lucio. Now, this is the one where I'm happy to talk a little bit about this one. He's kind of right? He's not terrible. He's kind of just very just very mid-tier, low tier. Not the worst character in the game, thankfully. But Lucio is very much a character where it's not that he's bad. It's just more so a lot of the other supports that are currently in the game, in Stadium, just do what he does a lot better. Just a lot more better healing overall, a lot more range. And it kind of feels like if Lucio wants to really keep up with these people, he has to run a very heal bot Burger King Lucio type build, which honestly, I've experimented with the Lucio heal bot builds so far. More so focusing on like ability power, right? Where you can go for damage, like, you know, shots damage, you know, give like healing, right? You have like lifesteal. After using sound wave, heal allies affected by crossfade for 200% of healing, 1 extra sound wave, and then like maybe like the amp it up triggers a sound barrier, or more amp it up duration, right? There's a lot of cool stuff in here. Honestly, 20% ultimate cost duration is honestly a really underrated perk. It's kind of a gimmicky perk because obviously there's the sound barrier deals damage, but it's not really good, right? You're kind of just getting it for the ult cost reduction. You can get another ability where ability damage and healing grants 20% more ult charge, which means Lucio can build an insanely fast beat if he really wants to run into that build, right? And a lot of people might not be interested in that build, but honestly, from my experience, you know, playing a more heal-focused Lucio build is actually really fun because it's nice to feel like you're actually having an impact as once. I don't play like a heal bot Lucio build in core Overwatch because it's kind of boring. You don't really feel yourself doing much of an impact. There's not much of value. If you try to like heal someone, it doesn't really do any much. It feels really dookie water, right? But I have gotten a lot of success on the character. I have done really well on the character. I think honestly, it's more so like the damage builds for Lucio is going to be very hard to pull off because he kind of falls off in the late game. Like more like damage Lucio struggles a lot in late game, especially against a lot of the high damage characters, unless you're running a little bit of survivability or trying to assassinate people as fast as possible. But in most cases, he struggles a lot simply just because if you don't like snowball early, you fall off very, very quickly with the more damage focused builds, which is more so I think the best Lucio build at the moment, which maybe I'll make a video on like some of my favorite builds for Lucio, is more so just like the hybrid build where you go a little bit of attack damage, a little bit of ability power, and then mainly survivability after that. So you have really good damage, but you can keep yourself up in 1v1s and fights, depending on what characters you're versing. So, you know, there's that sort of thing. More so just kind of like utility based with Lucio. Soldier 76. I got a little bit of flack for rating Soldier 76 like into C tier when I posted the original one on Twitter. And I've kind of just rated him as pretty mid now. If you were in the closed beta test, I can't show any footage of this, right? And I don't even know, like, like people would have no idea how terrifying Soldier was in like the closed alpha test, where players were calling the build Fart Cloud Soldier build. And what people would spec into on this character was absolutely abysmal, where people would mainly just go ability power, right, with more biotic field duration. You know where I'm going with this, okay? More like you would focus on ability power, which affects his healing station, I think. Actually, I don't even know if it even affects his healing station anymore. Doesn't seem like it says anything here about it. But that's quite interesting. But originally in the alpha, Soldier would build around, you know, your biotic field moves you, gives you increased max life while active. During sprint, biotic field refreshes faster. And then as well, where is it? When enemies are within your biotic field, they take damage equal to 100% of its healing output. So soldiers would spec into ability power, survivability, and move speed, and they would spend the entire game not even shooting. They would just spend the entire game running around as Soldier 76, just like this the entire time, just dealing damage non-stop. And that was their whole gimmick with the character. And it was one of the worst things ever because a Soldier 76 could have 3,000 healing late game in like 30 seconds. In like a 30 seconds to a minute, a Soldier 76 would have like 3,000, 4,000 healing. And you're like, oh, that's not really much. And you got to remember, it's a Soldier 76 just running around doing this the entire time. And it was one of the most frustrating builds to run into now. Now it's not really as strong because you have, you know, things in the armory. Like people have learned stuff over time that you can just get stuff where you can get 30% healing reduction for just doing ability damage, or critting also deals like healing reduction as well to like Soldier. So yeah, Soldier used to be like almost, I think S tier maybe if you were running Fart Cloud Soldier build. Now he's kind of just C tier, right? I haven't really seen many soldier players get a crazy amount of success on him. Most people kind of just spec around like the aimbot build. I think soldiers like with really good aim won't even need to focus on that aimbot build and kind of just go for hardcore damage and try to just like flank non-stop, burst people down. But we'd have to see how he goes in the future. Moving on to D.Va. I honestly tried a little bit of D.Va and I wasn't really finding much success in her. So far, the only thing I have seen is the most successful build is Emong's Baby D.Va build. Where he pretty much just specs to staying out of mech and go Baby D.Va only, trying to squish people. All that sort of stuff is what I was told, is that the best build for D.Va currently is Baby D.Va build. And if that is currently, unfortunately, the best build for D.Va, she kind of goes in around C tier for me. I honestly think Soldier's a bit better than her. She's kind of just like a whatever at the moment. And I think it's more so, you can't really play many fun builds on D.Va currently. It's more so just run around, do a little bit, like just do a crazy amount of survivability and try to just stall 24/7. But I just feel like a lot of other tanks kind of just do what she does better, right? D.Va Bomb can be good. There is one power, which is where her bomb goes off 1 second earlier, which messes up a lot of people's like muscle memories for D.Va Bombs, right? But I feel like a lot of people are just going to adapt to that power over time and kind of just be like, it's whatever. It's not really that strong. But yeah, I feel like D.Va's whole like thing is just kind of just be like super annoying and try not to die. And in my opinion, a lot of the tanks can just do what she does a lot better currently. Just because Junkerqueen is so strong, Orisa's really good, all that sort of stuff. Reaper. Ooh, I've seen one good Reaper player absolutely stomp the lobby so far, and that was mainly only because they had like Juno Junkerqueen, and the Reaper was just flanking 24/7. A lot of the Reaper players I have seen have just been running hardcore survivability, move speed and Wraith form, where his Wraith form just like slows you and he can mark you for like extra lifesteal or like some extra damage taken or anything like that. And of course, the Troll Reaper's running ability power Reaper, which only focuses on his Death Blossom, which is absolutely horrendous, by the way. If someone does manage to pull off a good AP Death Blossom build when Stadium launches, send it my way, because I really, really want to see it. I really do want to see if it pops off. That thing usually spout power scales in like in late game or something like that. But yeah, honestly, I feel like Reaper could make a big turnaround at some point. I don't think he's like the worst at the moment. I honestly think he's like high C tier, low B tier, really. I honestly think in the future, maybe he's honestly a B tier in my eyes. You know what? Maybe he's honestly a B tier in my eyes. I think Reaper is one of those characters that's going to come around really quickly at some point, right? Just for like going down on like the back line, bursting down squishy super quickly with like attack speed build and more so attack damage build, and more so just wraithing around 24/7 so we can just survive the entire time. I feel like Reaper's one of those characters that is slowly just trying to figure out what he can do with the character. More so, people are kind of just like, yeah, let's run ability power Reaper. I ran ability power Reaper. It went terrible. Whatever. Now we get on to Kiriko. Yeah, she's S tier as well. She's pretty strong. She's really good. There's currently a power in the game where you can get 2 Suzus, which obviously is a lot of Overwatch players' biggest nightmare. And of course, you can get clones whenever you teleport to someone. You run that with a cooldown reduction build, and pretty much you can have 3 Kirikos on the map if you keep your cooldown reduction up at a decent pace, right? And the reason why the clones are so scary is, yeah, they're bots. They're not actually controlled by the players. Is that sometimes the bots can be so RNG, they are horrifying to play into. Because I have seen some of those Kiriko bots, those clones, perfectly frame-perfect Junkerqueen ults like crazy. Frame-perfect Junkerqueen, Axe Wings, Reaper ults, Genji Blades, Orisa ults. Those are clones. Those are bots. But they have the minds of some of the best Overwatch players combined into one human being. That it's actually scary that it's not secretly a dev turning into the Kiriko whenever they lock in, because I don't know how they do it, and it's absolutely horrifying. Because it's just a clone at the end of the day, but it's crazy. Combo that with her maybe going from more of attack speed build, a little bit of critical damage, and then obviously more healing, a little bit of survivability, and she's pretty much a really hard character to get on because obviously the clones can juke you very easily. The cooldowns of Suzu can be pretty much making her really hard to kill. She can, block a lot of abilities in the game. She can block, Queen. She can block Orisa. She can block anti-nade, anything like that, right? So she's really kind of just like a good character to have in your arsenal. So yeah, I mean, it's Kiriko, right? She's always been a character that's been really, really good, really strong, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think she's going to be an absolute nightmare for people in Stadium. Honestly, she's not super frustrating for me personally, But I do think a lot of players getting into Stadium are going to be very confused just because of that clone ability alone. Do learn the stuff, guys. Seriously, don't jump into your first Stadium game. Learn a couple of stuff, figure some things out, find out what's strong, watch some videos, you know, go from there. Ooh, Mei. They dropped Mei into Stadium, I think with this most recent playtest, right? I think they dropped her into the closed alpha one, right? But man, she is really fun. She is really, really fun. Honestly, I'd rank her like a mid B tier at the moment. She's actually really, really fun. And that's mainly because one build at the moment with her, it's just so addicting. And that's the snowball build, where Cryo Fees now encase you on a rolling ice ball and can knock back enemies and deal 10 damage. You might not think it's super much, but if you run that around with like some cooldown reduction, you can just knock enemies into corners, keep them there, right? And just do some, burped. Do some disgusting things where there's some other things where, like, you know, Cryo Feast spawns a mini blizzard that slows enemies. Increase your max health by 50% of your ability power. So you pretty much get rewarded for running more of like an ability power build, right? Just specking the stuff here, for example. And it's pretty much like 438 health alone is quite horrifying. It's quite scary, right? So pretty much, if you have a decent like team, or if you're more so good at finding people that have low mobility, like jumping into an Ana, for example, like jumping at her with like the Mei snowball, right? And then they can't get out of this corner. It's pretty much impossible for people to get out of corners. If you push people into corners, they're done for. They're absolutely done for. So honestly, Mei is an absolute menace if played correctly. But obviously, if there are counters to her, like Zarya bubbles, Kiriko's, any characters to mobility, she kind of doesn't really get a crazy amount of value, or more so long-range characters, right? At the moment, but she's really fun. Honestly, if you're looking for a DPS character to play because one of your characters is in the game, pick up Mei, run the snowball build where you just roll around into the enemies and you'll have the most greatest fun in your entire life in Overwatch history. Trust me, it is an absolute treat. And now we get onto Mercy. Now, people are going to either cook me for this take or be very happy about this take. But she's S tier. She is unironically one of the second best supports in the game currently. I think Kiriko obviously is up there, but I think obviously because Kiriko requires a little bit more aim and sometimes a brain at times to make sure you don't get into dumb situations. Kind of just like a little bit lower than Mercy, right? But Mercy is currently, from my experience, a lot of Mercy players have struggled to figure out what the perfect build for is. And more so, they don't really know what they're doing. They kind of just run like, you know, move speed, cooldown reduction, all that sort of thing. But the best build, unironically, is tanked Mercy with a little bit of power into healing for helping allies out, which I think there is also some stuff that gives damage reduction, lifesteal, anything to kind of, and obviously increase res distance, which is one of Mercy's biggest weaknesses, is how like limited her range is with res, right? And I versed a couple of Mercy players who have absolutely fed their brains out like crazy. And that's mainly because they run a pretty squishy build. And then there's the Mercy players who run the armor, shield, and then there's like crazy health regeneration. And it pretty much, and like with cooldown reduction on Guardian Angel as well. And you have the most unkillable support in the entire game. It is an absolute nightmare to get on her. Obviously, I rank her lower than Juno just simply because she doesn't have damage output. She doesn't have much she can really, like, she obviously, the only way of her defending herself is kind of just running away 24/7. But she has insane store potential. Absolutely insane. I've tried chasing down Mercies. You've seen it in maybe one of the previous videos already. I tried chasing down the Mercy for a while, and it's an absolute nightmare. She's very, very hard to get on if you run a squishy, not a squishy build, a tank build. And, you know, combat that in with, like, if you have an Orisa or a Junkerqueen, anyone that's super tanky, if a Mercy reses that in a really long team fight, it is not fun at all, especially if she has that increased res distance, because even if you try and boop her away, she is going to be able to survive that. You can even get some overheal after you res. You can even like trigger like a mini Valkyrie for 5 seconds with one of your powers after you res. She really has a lot of stuff that can pretty much keep her up permanently in these team fights, where you really just need like a good DPS or maybe just like a lockdown ultimate onto a Mercy, where a lot of people, I think they're just gonna, like, if they're running a Zarya, they're going to solo grab the Mercy. They're just going to try and just take her down as best as possible. She's very, very hard to kill. But that's why I rank her high. I think, honestly, some people will still struggle with Mercy, but I honestly think she's one of those characters that's really good if you build correctly, right? And now onto Zarya. Zarya's actually really good. Zarya's actually not too crazy. I haven't seen many Zarya plays out, honestly. I played a little bit of Zarya myself, and I had a really good treat on her. I found out that you can jump towards your teammates on this. This is honestly one of the funniest powers they've put into the entire game, where if where is it? A projected barrier pulls you to the target ally and heals you 15% of max life over 3 seconds, right? I'm a little bit laggy, but that is funny as hell. You can pretty much run a dive Zarya build, or if you can just run like a super aggressive Zarya build where you jump into your team like, oh my god, I'm fighting people, right? And then like, oh, I'm getting jumped, or I'm slowed by a Mei or a Mei ward or something like that. And you just go, wee! You know what I mean? Why am I on 300 ping in the practice range? What's up with that, man? Hashtag Australia. Anyways, I found Zarya to be really fun. Also as well, like with her build, if you run more of her ability power stuff, this affects your bubble itself. I've just realized, like, it's not even just showing me what these what stuff affects here. That just might be a bug in the practice range. I'm not really sure, right? But I do believe ability power affects how much charge you get from someone shooting your bubbles. So originally it's like 40, but you add an extra like ability power, and then you get a little bit more charge just from people shooting it. So instead of 40, it can go up to 50, 60, all that sort of stuff, right? There's a couple of stuff in here, a couple of things in here that are really, really good. Barrier knocks back and deals, 25 damage increased by energy to enemies within 5 meters. This is really good for throwing into a grav. After a barrier is cast, particle cannon's next secondary fire spawns a slowing vortex that deals 100 damage over 2 seconds. So giving Zarya some soft crowd control with like high damage as well. She's just really strong into a lot of characters. She can pretty much burst down targets like absolutely crazy if she has these things. There's some things like maximum energy is increased by 150%, but honestly, this one's kind of hard to really pull off unless you're constantly getting like shot at 24/7. But so far, I've found that Zarya has been pretty good into a couple of characters. I think she's honestly like maybe a little bit like on the same level as Orisa, right? I don't know if she's better. Honestly, you know what? Let's just say she's better than Orisa. I'm just going to kind of like say that right now because she can obviously counter Orisa. She's one of those characters that can counter a good, like a Junkerqueen. But obviously a smart Junkerqueen is just going to get a lot of things like out of her, right? You have to run a very heavy anti-Junkerqueen build as Zarya and bubbling your teammates constantly and being very smart with your bubbles to get value out of her really well against that character. But yeah, Zarya's pretty good. She's honestly really fun. She might not be fun to play into for a couple of people, but I think there is some really stuff that's fun on her. So that's really, really good. Cassidy, he is our S tier DPS of this game so far. So if you have been around and seen a couple of gameplay, Cassidy is pretty much just an unstoppable juggernaut. He is one of those characters that pretty much just non-stop headshots people, criticals people non-stop, and does an insane amount of damage. You can run a full-on fan the hammer only build, increase your ammo like crazy, go into tanks, burst them down easily. It's pretty much an absolute menace. You run a little bit of tankiness as well, and I mean, yeah, he's horrifying. And as well, you can even get a roll slop build where you can, every time you roll as Cass, you pretty much become immune to damage. Let's show this one real quick, right? Sorry about that. One of his powers involves during combat roll, prevent all incoming damage, and then you heal after rolling for 3 seconds, which honestly is so stupid. Imagine throwing like an absolute nuke at this Cassidy, and he just rolls through it now. On live, at least it's like 40% damage reduced whenever you get hit by like a tracer pulse bomb, so you can survive a little bit. But yeah, I've seen a couple of Cass players just run. No, sorry about that. I've seen a couple of Cass players run around running like a fan the hammer only, just rolling around dodging damage, and I didn't realize he could like avoid incoming damage through his roll for a while until I saw the super video on it, right? And I was just like, okay, this is just abysmal. This is just absolutely insane. So he's honestly been hard dominating lobbies like crazy, and with a mercy pocket as well, he just becomes so unfun. Count how many times I've said crazy throughout this video. Can you tell I've been listening to LeSeraphim? I have. Okay, so yeah, Cass, really, really good. Pretty much the best DPS in the game currently. Outshines pretty much every other hero in the game in the DPS category. So yeah, coming down to our last two characters, we have Reinhardt, which honestly, I kind of label him in a C tier. Nothing too crazy. He's better than Diva, right? You can run a more so attack speed build, lifesteal, or you can run a more tanky build. And kind of just focus on charging people around and kind of just being a nuisance and building shadow as fast as possible. But I feel like he's one of those characters, even in core Overwatch, you need really good support to get a lot of value out of, because there's some good damage on you and you die instantly, right? Or you get blown up instantly. It's hard to just kind of like swing a lot. Like there's some builds where it's like you want to keep swinging it non-stop to get lifesteal, attack speed boost, and all that sort of thing. And I think a lot of Ryan players are going to fall into the noob trap of going like hardcore damage, trying to just like one-shot people with his hammer and fire strike. But yeah, I feel like when you have characters like Orisa, Junkerqueen, and Zarya, he's going to struggle a lot. But don't let that deter you from playing Reinhardt. Honestly, he's really fun with his whole flying abilities and all that sort of stuff. And it's more so I think this character is just really fun to play just because of how goofy he is, right? Coming down to our last character. Oh my gosh, we are 30 minutes into this video. I'm so sorry for yapping so long. I wanted to make this like 20 minutes, right? But coming down to our last character, we have Moira, who is the worst character in the game currently. The problem with Moira is that she's not even necessarily like a bad character, right? But I think the thing is, it's like when you compare her to all the other supports, you have like this auto-aim character, right? But so many of her abilities just kind of have like drawbacks, right? There are a couple of things about her that just have drawbacks, and I kind of just feel like you need to scale really hard or get like good value. Like you kind of need, it's like a map-based thing, right? It's a similar to Ashe sort of thing. Like you get these multi-balls, right? Where you can throw out like 3 balls, but they have like reduce thing, right? You mess up where one of those balls goes, and it becomes a little bit of issue. And it's more so Moira's only going to get like a good amount of value when she's in like tight rooms against people on 1v1s, or maybe if you're going hardcore DPS Moira. But I've just kind of felt like whenever I verse Moiras, or I've had Moiras in my team, sorry Aspen, I've kind of just felt like she struggles a bit. I will say utility-based Moira build, where there is one where if you sorry, I'm not flaming Aspen, I'm just joking around. There is some really nice stuff where if you fade into teammates, it makes them invisible for a second and it cleanses of all abilities, which I think is really good. But once again, if you compare that to the other supports like Kiriko, yeah, what's really the point when you can just get a double Suzu instead of trying to like fade through all your teammates consistently, right? But yeah, that's the pre-season 16 Overwatch Stadium tier list. If you have any disagreements, I mean, let me know. Honestly, this is subject to change coming into next season. I don't know if they'll do a balance patch, but honestly, I feel like, you know, the characters in the S team might need some little looking at, and maybe the characters in the lower tier probably could get some looking at as well. But honestly, I don't think they'll probably do anything until maybe like a couple of weeks into the season, simply because a closed beta test might not give like the best amount of information. But yeah, once again, don't like treat this tier list as like, oh no, I shouldn't play Soldier or Ryan or D or anything like that. Just go into Stadium, have fun, have a good time, because honestly, that's what Stadium is. It's just a great fun time. Just make some dumb builds with your friends if you have any. Sorry if you don't have any friends. But yeah, go have some fun. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy Stadium. It's one of my favorite game modes, and I'm glazing it like crazy, and I cannot wait to make a whole bunch of content on it for you guys. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Sorry for the super long yap video. Yeah, bye-bye. Take care of yourselves. Peace out.